After waiting for almost 2 years, the first episode of the final season of the greatest show ever made premiered. This long wait of 2 years created many speculations and theories amongst fans, some based on the books and some out of analyzing the show and its hidden meanings, with proofs and pieces of evidence at every stage throughout all the seasons. In this video, we will not only discuss what we think how the show will end, but will also provide justifications for our beliefs. For this purpose, we will divide our explanation into three major parts: the beginning, the Great War, and the battle for the throne. Before we begin, it is important to keep in mind that every scene in every episode in every season had some kind of importance contributing to the events that would eventually take place in the final season. Every character and the journey they embarked upon will make sense once the show ends. So, without further ado, let's begin with the first part by analyzing the season 8 opening sequence. In the past 7 seasons, when credits roll out, we have seen the beautiful music of Game of Thrones play and we get the visuals of different places and houses, including the wall. In season 8, we first see the glimpse of the broken wall caused by the Night King and his dragon, immediately succeeded by the grounds turning ice blue, eventually leading up to Winterfell. Then we cut to the scene which takes us inside the castle of Winterfell. Now, it is important to notice that for the most part of the credit sequence, we see the previously unseen but frequently discussed and referred to tunnels of Winterfell. This obviously hints that the army of the dead would eventually go on destroying Winterfell and the tunnels would serve as a hiding place as well as help few main characters to escape. We then slowly transition towards King's Landing, signifying that after the Battle of Winterfell is over and the army of the dead is dealt with, the final battle for the crown would take place. Yes, putting an end to one of the theories that eventually the White Walkers would prevail, banishing everyone, we do believe that the White Walkers and the Night King will be defeated in the Battle of Winterfell, leaving the second half of the season for the remaining houses battling it for the Iron Throne. Coming to the end part of the credits scene, we finally see the visual of the Iron Throne with the Lannister lion above it, signifying Cersei's current rule, followed by a brief image of the dragon of House Targaryen. Does this hint that it will eventually be Daenerys who would claim the Iron Throne? And at last, as the title appears, we see it surrounded by the sigils of 4 houses left in the bit of the throne. Dragon for House Targaryen, lions for the Lannisters, the direwolf for the Starks, and the stag for the House Baratheon, or Gendry, as we all know, is the last surviving Baratheon. Now, the second part of our discussion, the Great War. We learned in the first episode that the White Walkers have already taken Ned Umber's castle and they will be at Winterfell any moment. The epic battle took 55 nights to shoot and holds the record for the longest televised battle sequence ever. No doubt it's going to be magnificent and may last for entire 2 episodes, but the question is who would die and who would survive. As we mentioned earlier, the White Walkers and the Night King would be defeated, but not without scaring Winterfell forever and killing some of the important characters like Tommen, Beric, and others. We might also see some become White Walkers for a brief period before being eventually killed. Night King is the most mysterious character right from the very beginning, and we do not know anything about him except the fact that he was created by the children of the forest. We believe that the creators would heavily focus on the Night King's true identity and his motives before he eventually meets his fate, and it would be Bran and Sam who would play a huge role in this. But the question is, who would put an end to the Night King? The answer to this, according to us, is neither Dragonglass nor the dragons. The answer lies in the ancient myth of Azor Ahai. Azor Ahai was the warrior who ended the long night after defeating the White Walkers using a flaming sword that he put through his wife Nisa, who had fire in her heart. This has referenced many times in the book and in the show.
In the ancient books, it's written that a warrior will draw a burning sword from the fire, and that sword shall be Lightbringer.
It's none other than Jon Snow. Jon Snow has been face to face with the Night King on 2 previous occasions and is the one who is responsible for convincing almost everyone about the Night King's threat. We think we would witness a one-on-one combat between Jon and the Night King, with Jon eventually prevailing. Now, how does this connect to Azor Ahai and his flaming sword, and who is the one that needs to be sacrificed for Jon to have the flaming sword? Many believe that it would be Daenerys, but no, we think it's someone else. Every character in Game of Thrones currently is perfectly placed, either in the Battle of Winterfell to fight against the White Walkers or in the King's Landing preparing for the final showdown. But there's one character who has been missing and, according to us, would have a major impact at some point, and that moment is while killing the Night King. The character we are talking about is none other than the red headed woman, Melisandre. Remember what she said to Varys when she left?
I will return, dear Spider. One last time.
My lady.
I have to die in this strange country.
Melisandre would return and would sacrifice herself just as Nissa did to help Jon defeat the Night King. To provide evidence, here are some of the references that draw similarities between Melisandre and Nissa.
You're not cold, my lady.
Never. The Lord's fire lives within me, Jon Snow. Feel.
While Jon and Melisandre would have a direct role to play in defeating the Night King, Bran too would have a substantial role. We all know that Bran is psychologically connected to the Night King. Both have their powers from the same source, Bran from weirwood trees and Night King from the magic of Children of the Forest. We think that Bran and Night King are the two different sides of the same coin, and Night King's end would eventually kill Bran. Now, coming to the last part, the battle for the Iron Throne. We will proceed by eliminating the contenders. While doing this, we will also discuss some of the key events that we think would happen. As discussed earlier, we see the sigils of four houses: House Targaryen, House Stark, House Lannister, and House Baratheon. Let us quickly eliminate House Baratheon, as Gendry is not a huge character in terms of the series and has never shown any interest in the throne. Cersei is the current queen and everyone wants to see her off the throne for a very long time. There are speculations that she would become the Mad Queen and use wildfire to burn her enemies as well as King's Landing to the ground. The likelihood of this happening is less, as she already demonstrated this when she blew up the Sept of Baelor. The writers would keep in mind that it would be disappointing for the audience if they decide to retain Cersei on the throne. There will be an epic final battle between Cersei with Golden Company and Euron Greyjoy on her side and everyone else on the other. It is during this battle that we are likely to see the Clegane Bowl, where we predict that both the brothers would kill each other. Another prediction is the Theon Greyjoy laying down his life battling for the Starks and finally redeeming himself. Theon is likely to be killed by his uncle Euron. Finally, the big question: how does Cersei die? Will it be Arya completing her list by killing off Cersei? Or will the Valonqar theory hold true with Jaime killing Cersei? We think it could be a combination of both. After killing Jaime, Arya might use his face to kill Cersei, thereby fulfilling both the above theories. What about the fate of Tyrion? We never knew how his and Cersei's conversation concluded in the last episode of the 7th season. But what we think might have happened is Cersei making a pact with Tyrion, where Tyrion would betray Daenerys at the cost of Cersei lending her army for the battle against the dead. Daenerys would eventually find out his betrayal and have him killed or burned. Now remains Daenerys and the Starks. Starks have always served as the Warden of the North. Their purpose in the show was to protect the North, which they would against the White Walkers, as discussed. Although Jon is a Targaryen and the rightful heir to the throne, his only concern was to protect Westeros from the army of the dead, where everyone else was busy strategizing about the throne. If Jon survives the Battle of Winterfell, he would easily sacrifice his claim to the throne to Daenerys, who we think will ultimately win the Game of Thrones. Daenerys eyed the throne right from season 1 and came across a long way, conquering cities after cities, even losing one of her dragons. The bittersweet ending that George R. R. Martin was referring to, and what we think would be Jon losing his life and Daenerys claiming the throne, with the Targaryen once again becoming the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. So, this is our belief and our theories after carefully analyzing the show thus far. We might be partially correct, or entirely wrong. Game of Thrones surprised everyone right from episode 1 of season 1, and it would be foolish to think that they would not in the final season. Who knows, maybe the Night King wipes out everyone. Maybe Sansa outsmarts everyone and becomes the queen. Or maybe Jon and Daenerys have a baby who will rule in the future. But one thing is for sure, we are about to witness an end to the best television show ever created. And please don't forget to subscribe to Filmospect so you don't miss any new video.